In today's video, I'm gonna make a graveyard for Kings of War. Welcome back to I'm Bad at Gaming. I'm Ola, and today we're gonna build a graveyard for Kings of War. This is for Bring and Battle Wargaming. Richard asked me to build a graveyard and maybe a crypt for their upcoming game of Kings of War. So I did this in XPS foam and some 3D printed parts as well. I hope you like it. If you like my videos, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That would really help me a lot. Well, let's get to it. So I'll start out the project by measuring out about 9 by 7 inches, and then I'll just sketch out where I want the wall to be and the walkway, and also where the crypt should come. So when I'm satisfied with what I got, I'll just cut the base out with a blade and then trim the edges as well. For projects like this, I always keep pre-cut XPS foam bricks. These I tumble with rocks in a box to get the nice texture on them. So I'll measure out where the gate shall be, and starting with some gate post. And to make these pieces look nice, I just press the edges so they get a bit smooth and a bit dented. And then I'll just start laying bricks in a double pattern. Now I'll go around the edge here, and I'll just put the bricks down so I get this bit distorted pattern, because I want to have the fence later on looking like it's burst open. So then I'll measure out for the crypt, and I'll do a frame for the crypt in XPS foam. You can do this in cardboard, but I'll almost always use XPS foam. It's a bit sturdier and easier to lay bricks on later on. So I just want to remind you again to please subscribe to the channel. If you click the icon in the lower right corner here, you can subscribe to the channel. It would really help me a lot, so please do. So back to the build again. I'll just sketch in where I want the door to be, and then I'll just start laying bricks down. First I make an arch here for the doorway, and then I just keep on laying bricks all the way around. And if I have to cut a piece down, I'll taper the edges just by my fingers, so they get a smooth, nice edge. And then I'll just glue them all in with PVA and let that set so it's all dried when I'll continue work on it. So now for the fence, I've 3D printed the gate and the fence, and I'll be coming back to them later. So for the fence posts, I'll double stack the bricks just by gluing with the PVA glue, so the gate will have something to hang off. And when I'm done with that, I go in with the printed fence. To bend this, I use the hot end of the glue gun just for a second to make it malleable, and then I'll bend it in shape. So I did this all the way around, and I'll cut the pieces in length. To make this bent part, I'll just use the glue gun again to make it malleable, and then I'll bend it out so I get this burst out effect from the graveyard. And I'll go around and do the same, and also bend small pieces here and there to make it look old and worn. And I do the same for the gate, to bend that a bit as well, to make it look like it's worn and not been attended for a long time, just hanging. I'll finish off the corners on the house, and then I go to make an inner roof to the frame of the crypt, so I later can put on shingles there. So I just cut a piece into size, and then I'll glue that in with PVA glue. And use a blade to cut the bricks on the outside flush with the inner roof. To make shingles, then I'll just use the hot wire cutter. I have a Proxon, but you can use a wire cutter, or if you use a blade, be careful. But here I cut slots into a bigger piece, and then I have made slices about 1 millimeter in thickness, and I just cut them into size, glue them down, and make sure to have a bit of displacement so the tiles doesn't end up on the same place, and to make this look more random, I'll turn them, a couple of them, so they look more different. You can do single pieces and glue them down, but this is a bit quicker. And then I'll just take off the excess on the sides. And then I'll do the same for the other side, glue
that down as well with PVA glue. And I'll do this all the way up to cover the whole roof. And trim the sides as well. And get a nice texture, I use a wire brush and just brush them a bit, not too much because I don't want the grooves to go too deep. Then I tear pieces of a thin card here, XPS card, and then I just tear ridge pans or panels that I can bend into ridge pans, and then glue them in as well with PVA glue. So on that ride I'll use the Black Magic Craft Mod Podge mix, and I'll go over the whole piece and also the base plate. And then put down some PVA glue and use a brush and just brush it out and pour sand all over it. And to get to the small cracks and crevices between the rocks there, you can use a pipette or a dropper bottle like this, and then just pour sand all over it again, and then go over the whole piece. Make sure that the edges are covered as well, and if there comes a bit of a lip, you just press it down. So to make the walkway, I'll just do a thin string of PVA glue, and here I got some 3D printed gravestones that I made. They are all individually named, and there's a theme to the deaths on these. Well, to make a bit of a ridge to place them on, I'll measure out where they should sit, and then I'll just do small strings with PVA glue and then pour sand over it and let that dry, and then I go over it with the whole building and rocks with the grey paint. I use house paint here. For the door of the crypt, I made a template paper, and then I cut thin strips of XPS foam. Cut them into size and use a wire brush to make a wood-like pattern on them. And to get them in place, I use sellotape to tape them down, and then just glue 2 crossbars of the door. You can use a pencil to draw in some wood pattern, but I use a wire brush here. It's easier and looks better in the scale. So back to the house, I'll do a light over brush on the house. And then a dry brush. You can use a white or a light grey or a cream, just to get the raised edges. And then I go over the gravestones with the homemade black wash. And then I'll use the black wash with a brush and brush that all over the piece. Really slobber it on so it covers really well. Now back to the door. I used a template to cut out the door. And then I'll use the mod podge mix again and paint both sides. And then I'll do a dry brush on the piece again, just to lighten up the parts. And then go over the door with a brown and an overbrush with a lighter brown. And then just spray the door down with black wash. Then I'll paint the ground brown. And then when the door has dried, I'll go and do dry brush with the light brown over that. And then I just use the black homemade wash with a sprayer bottle. And here the film gods weren't with me, so I lost a bit of footage when I flocked the piece. But here I'll brush off the excess flock, and then I'll go in with some watered down PVA and pour on some extra flock, just to get a bit more variation in the ground. And I just leave that on until it has dried, and then when that has dried, I'll just pour it off and brush off the excess. And here I'll put down some PVA and then use birch seeds. These are sprayed with green ink in a plastic bag first, so these are a bit green, and then I'll use the ordinary brown as well, and I just scatter them all over the piece. And then I glue in the door with the PVA glue. And to seal all of it down, I'll use watered down PVA with the Foliage and spray the whole thing down. And then I'll just wipe off the excess PVA there on the stones and on the walkway. Try to remove the excess leaves there. So now to some small grit, I spread it evenly over the walkway, and then just pour on watered down PVA with Foliage and soak that real good. Then I'll leave it at an angle so the excess can drain off. And now for the foliage on the house, I was thinking vines, so I use coconut husk and just tear it up a bit and brush PVA glue on that, and then just sprinkle on birch seeds on that. When it has dried, you can trim the piece with an ordinary scissor, and then just spray down with sap green ink. And some more green birch seeds, and then spray that with watered down PVA. When that has dried, I'll just use PVA with a brush to fix it in place. and just brush that down on the crypt there, and sprinkle some green birch seeds over that to get this vine feeling. I do it on both sides. Now for the fence, I'll go all the printed parts with Vallejo's dark rust effect. Let that dry. So then I'll go over the walkway with grey, and when that is dried, I'll just dry brush it with a lighter grey. And to get the names on the gravestones, I use non-oil. And then spray some earth lumber ink with my airbrush to make some shadows and a bit of dark spots here and there. To finish off the fence, I'll use Vallejo's rust effect, the orange one, and pick spots and parts here and there. Now to glue in the gate, I use super glue, and I try to make it look like it's just hanging a bit off. Then I super glue the rest of the fence down. And then I'll use the dark rust and go over the super glue to cover up the super glue and make the blend nice there. And then I'll go over the piece with the homemade wash in the airbrush this time. Pick some spots here and there and make the transition better. And I think I'm done. So here's the finished result. Unfortunately, I got eager and sent the piece away before I got to make a closing video on it. So I hope you like it anyway. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Bye!